total annihilation. But he will also point out with harsh words of truth that the human being is neither the master nor the feudal lord of the earth, nor of its mountains, brooks, rivers, lakes, oceans, meadows, fields, pastures and forests. And he will indicate that for the purpose of profit, the human being dangerously and in a rampant manner plows through the earth and sky with powerful machines, and also cuts furrows with big ships in rivers, lakes and oceans, in order to wage wars worldwide and to transport large masses of human beings to other countries, and to wipe out all aquatic creatures for the purpose of procuring food. Thus also illnesses and epidemics will spread throughout the entire world, carried by innumerable travelers who will be spreading in all countries. Various species of animals and plants from many countries will spread in like manner throughout the world through the transportation of foodstuffs and goods of trade, and will take root in foreign countries and will disturb and negatively influence the course of nature. Yet a far worse time is still to come, because through the human being's fault, large parts of the earth will become barren and unproductive. The huge forests will fall victim to the human being's greed for gold and money, and the air will burn, because the air will be destroyed through the human being's production of artificial materials. The waters will turn brackish and poisonous as well as foul-smelling, and drinking water will become scarce. The human being will unrestrainedly, unscrupulously and irresponsibly exploit the earth's treasures, and exhaust the wealth of the earth's resources down to the last bushel. The entire world will be polluted through various kinds of filth, which causes all life to wilt. And the human being's hatred will grow beyond all bounds, and also in his own family it will not be any different. Gradually, the human being will come to be like a lonesome and wild animal that stalks after the life of its victim. When the new prophet appears 1937 years after the birth of the prophet Emmanuel, the time will begin when children will be abused and sold for fornication, for many who are degenerated in the worst form of inhumanity will find pleasure in their young skin. Many children will be driven into whoring, or will be strangled after being indecently abused, or killed by poison or weapons. But there will also be very many homeless children who are living on the streets, where they fall into the hands of dealers who kill and gut them like animals for the sake of their viscera. Other children will become targets for the authorities' murderous henchmen, and others will be treated like submissive animals. The human being will become rough and violent, and in his indifference towards the weak he will also forget the untouchable nature and weakness of children, and will exploit them through work and violate them by fornication. The secret of the children's unblemished integrity will be forcefully broken into and destroyed. Thus, for various reasons of greed for profit, they will be trained like little dogs and led on to the sacrificial slab like lambs, where they will be slaughtered and bled to death. The human being will no longer know mercy and justice but see only his own profit and advantage, and only proceed along a life of cruelty. The human being will be a prisoner of his own point of view, his own thoughts and feelings, and he will be intoxicated by his own speech, and not realize that he is more and more approaching delusion and ruin. He will regard the lies, images and reflections of the god cults, and those of their rulers and servants as the truth of the world, for he will be like a patient and dumb sheep that can be led around as desired. Yet consequences will not fail to follow, for the fanatic and accursed believers of one cult will indiscriminately round up the fanatic and accursed believers of another cult like predatory animals and birds in order to make easy work of driving them into the abyss and to their death. And it will be that one human being will be incited against the other in order to rob and skin him for the only reason to get hold of his personal belongings. Yet should he survive, he will then be robbed of his thoughts and feelings, as well as freedom and peace, and often even of his mind and reason. When the time of the new prophet comes, kings, emperors, and all the other rulers and powerful ones of the god cults will have no real knowledge about the creation and its laws. In a fraudulent and deceitful manner they will wickedly and bloodthirstily govern and control the innocent, idle and ignorant masses of human beings. Falsehood and deception will be their handiwork, and when they are in front of their faithful subjects, they will conceal their true faces behind masks and keep their true intentions a secret. But the time will come when they will be overthrown. Yet it will be that they determine the human being's destiny and everything connected with his life, and the ordinary human being will be excluded from the innermost assemblies of their own establishments' rules and regulations. Thus it is no longer the human being who will make decisions as a group, but only the uppermost at the top who will have the power and control and let themselves be paid horrendous sums for their disgraceful deeds. Although the individual human being believes to enjoy freedom, he will no longer be free but will live in bondage to the rulers and the hierarchy. Only those from uncivilized areas will revolt who are not enslaved to a belief of a non-existent God, and are not in bondage to a hierarchy. But at first they will be cursed and damned, and accused of delusion, and some will be conquered and burned alive, or killed in some other way. When the prophet of the new time has come, then the human beings on earth will become as numerous as ants in an anthill. And if a stick is driven into the colony, then they will run around and trample and grind each other to death like annoying vermin. And human beings will mill around like confused insects, and large groups of them will drift from one location to the other, either keen to travel, or fleeing from war, death and terror. The races of human beings will intermingle unbridled and breed human beings of mixed blood. Thus many diseases, epidemics and all kinds of human ills, as well as vices and malice will spread around the world. Some god cults will lure the believers of other cults, or mix among each other. God cults and their hierarchies, as well as their rulers and believers, will preach and promise freedom, love and peace, yet everywhere their talk will be lies and deception, for in their hearts they are only out for hatred and revenge, retaliation, robbery, pillage and plunder. The god cults and their believers will become enemies and wage war against each other. Human beings will go beyond all boundaries, and the young will have grey hair just like the old. The human being will abandon the path of nature, and families will be torn asunder. They will scatter all over the world, and they will no longer be able to unite. The world will be completely different in the new time, and the human being will be without security and support. Without real guidance, the human being will go off in all directions, and evoke upon himself misfortune upon misfortune. And he will no longer have stability, and will be in danger of falling into an abyss, at which edge he is constantly standing. At the time of the new prophet in the second millennium after the birth of Emmanuel, the human being will no longer live according to the creation's laws until far into the third millennium, but will subjugate himself to unreal laws and even far more unreal gods and their cults. As if riding a horse, the human being will try to control his life and will want to determine the children's sex in the woman's womb. Likewise, he will kill all the children in the woman's womb that he does not want. The human being will consider himself to be the creation, and especially the rulers as well as many mighty ones holding power will demand eternal life. They will be the ones who get hold of all the positions in high offices and the best land, as well as all the most beautiful women and men, in order to make them their immoral objects of pleasure. The poor, the old and the weak will be treated like inferior livestock, and their miserable huts and buildings for the old and the sick will be like evil-smelling prisons, where they will lie in a stupor and decay. And profound fear will, like poison, consume there, as well as every other human being's thoughts, feelings, hearts and head's consciousness. All of this will also rest on a craving for profit and power and a craving to practice usury, for this will be an obscure and secret society controlled by laws and regulations, and its laws will be hatred and revenge, and its weapon will be the poison, through which comes the craving for gold and money, belongings and possessions, lust and vice, as well as pleasure. This poison will spread as a controlling power around the earth, and its servants and henchmen will be connected to each other by a poisonous and bloody kiss that forges them together. the poor and the old, the righteous and the weak will be at their mercy and obey them, and, therefore, involuntarily or naive, they have to be submissive and of service to the rulers and the powerful ones of the lands and the god cults.